back to New Script on the Block. My name's Graham Pritchard. I'm here along with my co-host, Alyssa Eshelman, and we have our guest, Roze, today. I missed your last name. Do you use the last name?
I legally have a single name.
Okay,
Wow.
very cool.
Just Roze, R-O-Z-E.
Nice. How long? I'm assuming.
Since
you
2002,
changed
I
it.
made that legal.
Okay, cool. Very nice.
And he brings the script Bloody Hook with him. Do you want to tell us a little about yourself?
A little bit about myself. All right. Let's see here. I've been.
Where to start?
I started making content in 2002. Prior to that, I was a musician, and I broke my wrist, actually, and I had to have a surgery. I went through 2 years of depression and addicted to Oxycontin, and somehow woke up out of this and just, it was weird. I was fully addicted, and I knew I was, and I knew it was bad for me, and I looked up a film school, found Scottsdale Community College, signed up, and then quit Oxycontin all on the same day.
Wow.
And I have no idea how or
I can't imagine how you were able to even do that.
I can't even, thinking back to that time period, I don't even know how. Because it was like, I don't know, a couple weeks into actually starting class, a buddy of mine had a pill, and he brought it to me. And I decided, well, fuck, I'll go ahead and I'll take it. And I got violently sick for 3 days straight.
Wow.
And I watched a Requiem for a Dream on repeat while I was just throwing up and sick. And I was just like, that was the last time I had dropped a pill. And I have been, clean ever since. And
That's
I've been
amazing.
making movies. And
That's awesome.
I knew I was on the right path. But yeah, it was just kind of bizarre. And then, I had worked 10 years as a musician, and I was finally starting to get some traction, but it was like 6 years in, and I made my first feature. So I kind of knew I was kind of like, it felt right. Everything I was doing, just pieces fell together. So
Okay.
I
So
ended
music
up in
hasn't
movie.
really been a thing for you since you started working on film?
Nothing more than just love of it.
Yeah.
And I'm a sucker for pop music, and it kind of keeps me, like, I love youth culture.
Okay.
I love being a part of, I love knowing the new, just dumb new things that nobody, like nothing but kids know
like
about.
odd slang terms.
I'm into
and
it for
apps
some
and shit.
reason. Yeah, it's
That's
not,
cool.
and it's not too, some sort of odd, like gripping and holding on to my youth. I actually love getting old. I can't wait. I want to be Gandalf one day. It's like my goal, to have this long beard and
Yeah.
funky hat.
You
and smoke
can't
weed
see him,
with a long
folks, but he
pipe.
does have facial hair, so he's on his way.
I'm definitely on my way. I'll be a man-bunned Gandalf.
That sounds amazing.
But
So tell us a little bit about, after you got out of school, you said you were in it for about 6 years before you made your first feature, and then I know that eventually you went out and tried it out in LA. What was that like?
So I made my first film in 2008. It was three guys go out into the woods with a buck knife, a bottle of water, and a garbage bag for a survival trip. I kept it really simple. I wrote the screenplay for the budget that we had to work with.
Okay.
We were trying to raise
Smart.
$1.5 million for another project, and we made it to about $100K. And we decided, instead
We're just
of
going to do something.
try something. So we wrote a new script, and we got it out there. Got worldwide distribution on it. I'm not going to. It was a local distributor, I'll say that much, and they still owe me money. So, but it was enough to get, kind of like, it really kind of got my name out there. I was able to make a second film. I made Speak No Evil.
Oh, nice.
Lionsgate ended up picking up that film. I moved to LA in 2014, and I signed a 2-picture deal. To do Hear No Evil and See No Evil.
Okay.
That
makes sense,
trilogy.
yeah.
And the company I was working with raised half the money, and then I believe spent the cash. Like, they won't. That's not what they say.
Yeah.
But I think the money just magically disappeared. And all of a sudden, so there I am.
You're out in LA.
I tied
you're
up
ready
my
to
IP.
go. Yeah.
So I started hunting around for gigs, and I can't say the name of the project that I got, but I got it through Craigslist. I signed an NDA, so that's why I can't say what the project is. But they had hired a union writer to write the first draft of this screenplay based on already existing IP.
Okay.
It was an older writer. He was like in his 60s.
Put your guesses in the comments below, folks.
What's that?
Put your guesses in the comments below.
Yes. And I'll say this much. It was about a terrorist. That'll be the
okay.
only tip that I can give you.
I'm like going. Go ahead.
And so the producers did not like the first draft of this screenplay.
Okay.
I ended up getting the opportunity. They offered me $10,000 to do a new draft on this. They needed a non-union writer. They couldn't afford to bring on a union writer, so that's how I scored this thing. It was, like I said,
they had already spent like a bunch of money on it.
No title on the screenplay when they handed it over to me. I didn't know what I was getting into, and then I was shocked by the time I got to the midpoint. And I was like, holy shit, this is the story I'm telling right now? Mm-hmm. And that tells you what a horrible job they did. You should know in the first 5 pages what you're doing, where the world are, where you're at. But it took way too long for him to get there. And so I submitted an outline. I decided to go ahead and negotiate without my manager. Because it was 5 days before Christmas. It was only $10,000. I was thinking to myself, you got this. This is I had already done a number of contracts for 2 movies prior to this. I had already worked with lawyers and stuff, so I knew what I was looking for, I thought. And so I decided, they're like, hey, give me an outline. If we like your outline, we'll pay you to write the screenplay. I was like, great. So I wrote the outline out. They paid me $750 for that outline. And then the original writer saw what I wanted to do to change it and decided magically he was going to rewrite the screenplay, and he did. Oh, wow. And I got no credit. I got no pay. This was 5 days before Christmas. And so I couldn't afford rent, and so I had to leave LA. This is all while I'm going through a divorce.
So the moral of the story, folks, is always sign a contract.
Well, I will. Yeah, and man, and when you do get somebody, this would be my advice. If you are not repped, use that contract as your leverage to get repped. Yeah. Now you can just say, hey, I just need you to look at this one contract. You don't have to rep me beyond that. Could you just do this one thing for me? Right. They might just say, hey, here's a lawyer, Yeah. But at that point, you've made some sort of contact. You can thank them again. You set up some sort of contact. And if the deal goes well, there's a very good chance you will get repped.
And as a writer, can you talk a little bit about what that representation normally looks like? Are you referring to
anybody who tells you they want you to sign on a piece of paper, like a rep, like a manager?
Okay.
It's a fake. Don't do it.
Okay.
This was my biggest shock. Is all managerial representation happens on a handshake.
Okay.
And managers know that they're in the business of starting careers, and they rarely do they get to hang with their star. They try to get them a couple of good shows right off the bat. Then eventually their agent convinces them to drop their manager. What happens in LA.
Okay.
So one thing I did was...
that makes sense because once you're self-sustaining, you don't really need... imagine you don't really need that role filled anymore.
Right. And you can kind of see the logic of it and why give up 10%. But at the same time, these are the people who are... You didn't score that TV show on your own. You needed the relationships with this manager. So I still am in contact with my manager. I have not produced a screenplay in a couple of years, and we're still. I decided to take a more long-term approach to my career, and I kept my relationship, and I intend to keep my relationship. Mike DeTrana is the guy who's repping me right now, and I love that man. So I hope you get to hear this, Mike.
That's good.
He's rarely can you say you really love your manager, but
we'll send him this little piece of the podcast as a special thank you.
Entertainment. He's a really good cat. Cool. I really love that guy.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, we talked quite a bit about your history in LA, and we've got a hefty piece to get into. This is actually the first time we'll be reading something this long on the show. It is for is this a pilot? Is this?
Yeah, this is a pilot for a TV show. I've got the entire Bible also built out for this.
Okay.
And yeah, really, actually, it's kind of exciting because I got some traction on another project. That is potentially going to Netflix. The Speak No Evil project that I said I got no sequels for.
Yeah.
You
got no sequels for? Yeah.
We now are turning it into a Netflix series.
Oh, awesome.
And unfortunately, there's a few names I cannot say who's attached to it yet because we're still finalizing those contracts. But I'm finally getting some
something
life back out of
from
that 3-picture deal is now turning into, this is going to turn out way better. I'm really excited about turning it into a series.
Awesome.
I think I'm better at writing pilots and TV shows
Series.
than I am movies, actually.
Okay.
Like, I'm really, I love the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm really excited that.
I mean, I'll be honest, I think I
there's a couple of
watch
cool
more
ones.
shows than I do movies,
Yeah.
just because I like the engagement of, like, connecting with a character and then following their journey for long enough that
Yeah,
it
there's-
becomes like they're a real person to you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
Yeah.
a lot longer time to do character arcs and just so many more storylines than just a movie.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's interesting. Like at first, I thought that's what I liked about TV shows,
Yeah.
but I realized you don't get to know them any better than you do in a movie. You just it's, to me anyway. It's the constant danger you get to throw them into. Like they're like almost every movie there's kind of like one piece of danger that they're constantly avoiding.
Yeah.
Where in TV shows, man, like it could be just like, oh my gosh, my significant other is going to realize that I'm cheating on them 1 week, and then like 2 weeks later they're almost getting hit by a car or hanging on the edge of a
Right.
cliff. Like the things that you can throw at these characters. I mean, so I guess in that regard, you got to build somebody sturdy enough and long enough and real enough that you can keep throwing shit at them and they keep
And people
surviving.
buy it. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, to me, that's what makes it really exciting is the constant flow of problems that you can throw at them.
Yeah.
So is this Bloody Hook, is that the name of the episode? Is that the name of
The
what
whole
you want?
the whole series.
Okay,
the
very
whole
cool.
show.
Do you have episode title for this yet?
Whew, I don't. I've never thought about naming the episodes, actually.
Yeah.
It has...
Is that
Probably
something?
because I've only written pilots.
Yeah.
Well, and they would just be called Pilot or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. This one's a pilot, but it's interesting. But this next project I'm working on, we're actually starting by writing the entire season 2 first.
Oh, okay.
And it freaked me out when I first thought about it, and I started connecting with a couple of writer friends of mine, and every one of them were like, "Oh my God, I wish we would have done that with the series."
so that you
they're
have a
currently
plan
working
for the
on."
direction you're going to go in.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because all you gotta do is be a good writer
what's
to
the
get
future?
season 1 down.
Yeah.
But to know where this whole beast is going,
Yeah.
by having a solid season 2, like every episode done,
Yeah.
and I just started that process yesterday, and I'm like,
That's
well,
a really good pro tip, honestly.
Yeah,
know the direction
absolutely.
you're going to go in.
absolutely
Yeah.
write episode 3 of season 2.
Yeah.
Pick something really hard to write first. If you know what's happening there,
Yeah.
you got your pilot done. It's too easy at that point, because then it's just like really solid characters that you're just throwing a new problem at.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what I'm realizing is you build solid characters, throw solid problems at them. Doesn't matter where they are in their journey.
Yeah.
Like this character is going to respond the same episode 1 or episode 4. Like Jack from Lost. He was the same character no matter where he was in the season. Like he started to lose his mind a little bit, but
Yeah.
shit, he was losing his mind in episode 1. He was like freaking out.
I don't know. I've been watching a lot of Walking Dead, and I feel like their approach is a little different than that, just because, like, you watch Rick, for instance, is the main... I don't know if you guys have watched Walking Dead,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
I know it's a popular show. So, like, Rick, I feel like he'll go through a phase where he's, just trying to handle all the shit that's coming at him as best as he can, and then he'll hit this point, like, breaking point, where it's like, now I'm just going to get really gruesomely violent because I can't handle anymore.
Right.
Or then when he's worried about Carl, like, doing the wrong, quote unquote wrong thing, then he suddenly backs off and is like, now I have to make decisions where I'm thinking way too much before I'm acting because, I have a consideration of what's the effect that this is having on my child. So,
Right.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I would also agree that show has jumped the shark a few seasons ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it directly resolves around everything
From
you're
that,
saying right
yeah.
now. And I would dare say you change up the showrunner, and you just here's a new show is what
Here's
you've
a-
done
Right.
at
Yeah.
that point. They can call it the same show,
yeah.
but you can see right there.
I'm only on season 4, so I'll be honest, I haven't.
Oh, I
I'm
think
not.
that's kind
Don't
of
know
where-
spoilers,
Stop there, and you'll
Yeah.
be so happy.
I think that's kind of where I stopped. I don't know how many seasons they're at now, but...
They're at 9.
8 or
Okay,
9,
maybe
yeah.
I stopped at like 6, but I know I haven't watched the past few seasons. And kind of glad I didn't.
Yeah, I just turned it on recently, and I was like, ooh,
no.
what happened?
Yeah.
Damn,
Just
guys.
couldn't get back into
Ruined it.
it. So actually, you're good. Like,
Yeah.
you are right now,
Stop
it's like,
it.
it's perfect. Pretend that
Gotcha.
there is no
There is
more.
no
and
more.
you're just like, ooh, this is a great show.
Yeah, enjoy it while it
I
lasts.
hate to talk smack like that to any other writers. I was really hesitant to say something, but that's true. I really just haven't enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their fall-off points on things,
Yeah,
you
I'm
know.
sure.
Okay, well, now that we're done with our review and critique of the Walking Dead series, which is what this episode was really about.
It's the day before Halloween.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a scary show.
Well, by the time this podcast comes out, it'll already be
yes.
in November.
That's
But could you give just like a brief summary of the premise of the series before we hop into the script itself?
Yes, an iceberg has broken off the northern coast of Alaska, and a gigantic hole has been discovered by the United States government. And they sent up a group of scientists to research what the hell is this thing. And then 3 days later, all of those scientists are dead, and in a small town nearby, again, every adult in that town was killed, and the only surviving members are the children, but they won't speak. So they hire a child psychologist to come up to this town to try to figure out what the hell just happened.
Wow, okay. Well, I'm intrigued. Let's go ahead and dive into the actual script. This is a two-parter, folks, so please listen till the end and be prepared for part 2 next week.
If there is any moment along the way, if it's readers or if it's writers that are listening to this, I'm all about talking about it.
Oh, for sure.
Right at the moment too. So
And we totally encourage people who listen to the podcast to, one, obviously comment in the comment section, but if they're listening on iTunes, to send us an email at info@arizonastudios.com, and then that way we can forward and share stuff with you.
Cool.
But at the end, we'll also give you the opportunity to give your handles if you want to.
Awesome, yeah.
Okay, great.
Cool.
I'm going to dive on in. Okay, so it starts off at the top of this page, and it does say teaser. So help me understand the context for writers listening who are maybe first-time writers or still learning. Do you mark that there to separate this section of the script from the rest of the script as like a totally separate piece of content? Or is it really just like an epilogue to or prologue to?
I don't know if I would do this again. At the
Okay.
time, this was like a formatting thing. I forget even which book I saw it in. Now that I see it, I can't say that I like it as much, but some of the other pages, I dedicate an entire page just to let you know if you're in which act that you're currently in. So teaser is just saying, hey, this is going to be a 5-page little quick intro before our first commercial.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That makes
you know,
sense. So it's for ad
it's
space.
barely an
Okay.
act. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Interior Purge County Police Office Day. Sheriff Harley Prestwood, 50s, sees his portly reflection in a pool of melted snow that has settled around his boots. A .45 dangles from his hip, a shake in his bones. The officer sits across the table from Special Agent Cormac Defoe, 40s, pencil pushing his way through his interview as he puts a dried-out pen in his pocket and pulls off the cap of a new one.
Start from the beginning.
Harley's foot shakes in the puddle of melted snow, sending waves over his reflection.
We lost contact with officers from the town of Hook a couple of days ago. They called it that because the entire town looks like a hook.
Harley makes the shape of a hook with his finger, but does not get a reaction from Cormac. Exterior northern Alaskan coast night. 3 single headlights pierce the dark fog before dawn as the sheriff and 2 deputies ride snowmobiles up the coast.
Me and my deputies went up there. Check in on them. You can't get there by road. We scooted up there.
Exterior Hook Police Office Day. The sun rises over the horizon as they ride through a rusted fishing village that sits on the end of the peninsula. The land actually does curve out into the bay like a hook, lined with empty docks. The police officers come to a stop in front of 4 walls, a roof and a door they call the Hook Police Station. The sheriff pops his helmet off his round head. The sheriff pops his helmet off his round head to get a better look at his eerily quiet town.
I've never seen those docks empty.
The sheriff looks over at Deputy Michael McFall, 30s, as good as an old boy gets, saddling off his snowmobile. The officer peeks into the police office.
Nobody is here.
Deputy Eileen, 30s, slips off her helmet and immediately notices something isn't right. What's that smell? Eileen's question sends chills down Harley's spine as he scans the town for any sign of life. Michael saunters over next to Eileen.
That was probably me. I think I ate a baby chicken in my eggs this morning. Something crunchy anyway.
That happened to my uncle once. The little baby chicken started to grow in his belly.
That did not happen.
Look me in the eyes. She grabs Michael by the ears. Yes, it did. The sheriff spots a curtain swinging in the window of a trailer home across the street.
Let's knock on some doors.
Harley walks over to the trailer as Eileen gestures to help Michael across the street.
Leave me alone.
Just figured since you're pregnant and all, under her breath, with a baby chicken monster, I thought you might need some help.
I got a monster growing in me, that's for sure. But it ain't no baby chicken.
Ew, shut your hole. Exterior trailer home day. Michael approaches the trailer and knocks on the door, rattling it on the hinges. No one answers, leaving the officers with an eerie silence until Eileen spooks Michael. Bark, 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 bark.
Nice.
You're never going to hear me do that again. Michael jumps. I hope this doesn't pop up later in the script. Michael jumps. Eileen chuckles, and they are both silenced with a look from the sheriff. Harley grabs the handle, swinging open the door, and is hit with the stench of death in the air. I'm going to throw up. Interior trailer home day. Harley walks into her room bathed in blood, pieces of human flesh and body parts strewn about the home. He steps in a pool of frozen blood and slips. Boom, Harley hits the floor.
Jesus.
Harley gets up in a hurry with the help of Eileen while Michael covers his nose as he enters the trailer, gun drawn. You okay?
This is the police. Is there anyone in here? Come on out.
No one answers back as Michael leads the officers deep into the murder scene.
Be careful. They may still be here.
Oh my god.
Oh, the suspense. Interior bedroom day. Michael is the first to see the horrific sight in the bedroom. A hole has been dug into the center of the bed that goes through the bottom of the trailer into the earth below. The bed is drenched in blood and black dirt.
What the hell is that?
I don't know.
I think we should get out of here. The officers were stunned in terror when the closet door burst open and Eli, 12, a traumatized child covered in blood, cuts Michael in the belly with a fish cutter and recoils back into the corner.
Holy hell!
Don't shoot.
Eileen hurries to Michael's aid, and the officers hold his wound, blood spilling over their fingers.
Is he all right?
Let me see. Harley keeps the barrel of his gun pointed at the scared child in the corner. Michael's blood drips from the child's blade as he shivers in the cold.
Come here. It's all right. I'm not going to hurt you.
I'm gonna hurt that little...
That's enough, officer.
Eli grips his knife as if his life depends on it. His hand quivers in terror. The gun shakes in Harley's hand as Eileen fusses over Michael's wound. She can't stop the bleeding with what is available to her.
Drop the knife.
Keep pressure on the wound. I'm going to get the kit. Eileen rises to her feet and sees something through the window. Sheriff?
Come here, boy.
The sheriff keeps his attention on Eli until suddenly the haunting sound of children screaming from outside creeps into their ears. Harley, you have to see this. Harley stands up and looks out the window to see dozens of blood-covered, traumatized children crying in the snow.
Dear God.
This podcast is brought to you by Arizona Studios. Arizona Studios, a full-service video content specialist. We're here to illuminate your message and compel your audience to take the right action. For more information, head to our website at arizonastudios.com and be sure to tune in for more content on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Well, it's good. Effective. Okay, we are on to Act 1. Interior courtroom day. Dr. Susan Wren, 40s, with eyes that invite you closer but reveal a dam teetering on the brink of collapse. sits across the aisle from her daughter, Izzy, 13, who is probably the only person in the room that hates Susan more than Susan.
Looks like everything is in order.
Susan peeks over at her daughter sitting next to her father, Cesar, a chiseled rock. Stable and ground for his daughter when, ring, Susan's cell phone interrupts the proceedings. Excuse me. Susan sees a call from an unknown number. Before she turns off her phone and catches a moment of disgruntled eye contact with her ex, Cesar.
May we proceed?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry. The room is silent for only a tenth of a second before Susan's phone vibrates from inside her purse. It does not go unnoticed by the judge.
The court hereby grants full custody of Isabella Nino to her father, Cesar Nino.
The world caves in on Susan when she hears the judge's words and looks over at her daughter, but Izzy is gone. The door slams shut from across the room. Izzy! Susan stumbles out of the chair, and Cesar stops her with a firm hand and a storm in his eyes.
Just give her some time.
I want to say goodbye. Susan attempts to walk past Cesar, but he steps in to protect his daughter.
She will forgive you in time.
Forgive me? Cesar reaches Susan's eyes.
Are you sober?
Are you serious?
Is that why you took this job? You got to be addicted to something, so it might as well be work again.
I'm late. I gotta go.
Even though that's what got you here in the first place?
Do you think this is easy for me? I don't know what you said to her, but she does not want to have anything to do with me.
And that is my fault? I'm not the one running off to Alaska right now.
I am not running away. I am working.
Why are you doing this to yourself, Susan? You don't have to go back to work for them. It's killed you the last time. Hell, it almost killed our daughter.
Susan takes it like a brick to the chin and storms off into the ladies' room. Interior, ladies' room day. Susan rushes past an old woman. Her facade falls apart as she locks herself in a bathroom stall. The old woman can feel Susan's pain through the door, and it draws the old woman closer. Bathroom stall. Susan dries her tears with the cuff of her shirt when she hears a knock at the door. The muffled voice startles Susan, but stops her tears.
Are you okay, dear?
Perfect. I'm fine.
Are you sure?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to talk?
Bam! Susan punches the door. I'm fine! Susan can hear the old woman's footsteps clank away from the bathroom stall as blood trickles down from her knuckles. Ring. Susan sees it is the unknown caller and reaches for her phone, instantly debilitated by a shockwave of pain from her now broken hand. Plop. Susan drops her phone in the courthouse toilet. Fuck! Exterior, Barrow Airport day. Special Agent Alexander Cavender, 30s, designed with purpose, steps out over the frost-covered tarmac with his smartphone in hand. Cormac wheels a cart loaded down with metal cases over the snow toward a small charter plane on the runway. Alexander lifts the phone to his ear and sees Cormac watching him. Someone finally picks up. This is Dr. Susan Wren. I am sorry to miss your call. Please leave your... Alexander hangs up without leaving a message as Cormac packs the metal case into the charter plane. Alexander steps past the plane.
Where is she?
I don't know.
Are you working on it?
What do you think?
Thank you.
Alexander walks toward the rusted-out hangar as Cormac lifts another metal case off of the cart and gently places it into the charter plane. Interior Purge Medical Clinic day. Deputy Michael wakes up in a hospital bed, wipes the drool from his chin when he hears a familiar voice. Who's Julian? I don't even know.
He's back here.
Bang! The door bursts open and hits the wall. Julian, 40s, a meat house and boots, is accompanied by his daughter, Christy, 16, covered in tattoos and 1-inch bone gauges in her ears. Jesus, Dad.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Julian lands eyes on his big brother, lying in bed with a bandage around his belly.
There he is. For some reason, they got you in the sex change department.
All right. Michael's grin hangs off the sides of his ear as Julian and Christy come in for a hug.
Ain't no sex change department, you dumbass.
Julian is gentle with his brother as they embrace. Michael points at the bandage and notices Christy could care less as she looks for a place to sit down.
Check it out.
Little shit really got you, didn't he?
The bastard came out of nowhere. He was scared, man.
What the hell happened?
Michael looks over at Christy and then lowers his voice.
I never seen nothing like it, little brother.
What?
Blood was literally everywhere.
Michael has captured the attention of Julian and Christy when they are interrupted. Hello? Harley takes his hat off as he steps into the room, followed by Eileen with a vase full of vinyl flowers. Her lips smile when she lands eyes on Julian.
I see you got company. How do you do, Harley? Could be better.
Hey, Julian. Christy notices Eileen's feeble attempt to get her dad's attention as Harley sits down in the chair beside to his injured officer.
How you hanging in there?
You know, gutted by a 12-year-old.
Michael gets a laugh from everyone but the sheriff.
The FBI are taking over the investigation.
FBI?
They're moving the kids to Purge.
Why purge?
They set up an old school with beds, high security, put bars on the windows.
They're keeping it a secret is what they're doing.
Christy sighs loudly and looks at her father expectantly. He hears his daughter's nonverbal complaint and nods.
We should get going. I just wanted to see my big brother.
Don't go because of her.
What's that supposed to mean?
Sometimes you're just like your mother.
All right, you two. We're gonna let you rest.
Julian steps over to his brother for a hug goodbye. Michael reaches over to Julian and is suddenly stuck with a jolt of pain in his belly.
Ow, jeez.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just got a little ow.
Michael grabs the side of his belly and yells out in pain. Blood seeps through the white bandage.
Something is wrong.
Michael screams out again in pain, and Eileen runs out of the door looking for help. Nurse? Harley helps Julian try to calm Michael down.
Something's in there.
What do you mean, something is in there?
Something's in my gut.
Michael reaches for his bandage, but Julian stops his brother from ripping them off. The nurse rushes to his side. Hold his arm. Harley and Julian struggle to hold Michael down as the nurse peels back the bandage to reveal an open wound bubbling out blood and black soil. A clump oozes out and hits the floor.
What is that?
Harley takes a closer look.
It's dirt.
This just gets grosser and grosser, don't it? It's saying a lot about you, Roze. Oh, boy. All right.
I'm really enjoying this. I haven't read it in well over a year.
I'm really enjoying it. It's a good piece. Pretty gross, but I like it. Have you watched Castle Rock at all?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I've been hearing a lot about it recently.
This gives me a very Castle Rock kind of vibe, which, is a compliment considering the origins of the work, right?
Cool. Right on.
All right. Exterior Barrow Airport Day. Tarek, 20, wiry derelict with a full neck tattoo, loads a small rusted mail plane with wooden crates, green duffel bags, and a black leather case. He takes a quick break to admire the beautiful sight of the frozen airport, empty and silent until a mud-encrusted minivan rolls out from around the rusted hangar. Tarek watches the minivan cautiously traverse the snow-covered road to the runway and stop near his plane. A window rolls down, revealing Susan in the passenger seat, serious as a heart attack. I'm looking for Alexander Cavender. Tarek looks around the barren airport and back at her with a simple shake of his head.
I don't know what you're talking about, lady.
Tarek turns his back on Susan, who now sees her driver is unloading her suitcase out of the back of the minivan directly onto the frostbitten runway. What? No, sir, not there, sir. Susan steps out onto the slippery ground and keeps a precautious hand on the vehicle for balance. Tarek can't help but stare at this train wreck and spots Susan's right hand wrapped in a bloody rag. This is not my plane. Can you take me to the hangar so I can try and make a call? The driver throws her suitcase back into the minivan. Susan throws him a what the fuck and catches eyes with Tarek. Diverting his gaze, she turns to go back to her seat, then slips and hits the runway hard.
Oh, shit.
Susan cannot catch a break. Tarek can't help but laugh as Susan struggles to get a steady footing. Fuck! Susan dusts the snow off her ass and throws Tarek a look that shuts him the fuck up before he climbs back inside the minivan.
Hey!
What do you want?
You going to purge?
Susan suddenly sees this man in a whole new light. Exterior Barrow Airport runway day. Tarek's tired little plane gets up to speed and take off into the gray sky of an icy runway. Interior mail plane day. When Tarek reaches an altitude, it is like getting high in puffy pillows. He is in his natural element and has nothing but confidence in his plane, which helps Susan cope with her anxiety. Tarek notices Susan wrap the bloody rag a little tighter around her knuckles and wince.
So what's your story?
Missed my plane.
Yeah, I got that. How'd you knock your knuckles?
Crushed my hand between two bags at the first airport this morning.
Really? Because it looked like you decked someone in the chops.
I wanted to punch my driver. Tarek chuckles and Susan changes the subject by pointing to a small village a mile out. Is that Purge?
Nope, that's Hook. It's actually shaped like a hook.
Susan gazes at the empty fishing village below. They fly over the hooked end of the peninsula when red snow catches Susan's attention. Oh my God!
What?
Susan looks back and only finds white snow from as far as she can see. Nothing.
Purge is up ahead.
I can't believe people live out here.
Nobody lives out here. I think people just come here to die.
Exterior Purge Bay day. Susan gets a bird's eye view of this tiny fishing village from the mail plane. Purge is a collection of rusted coastal shacks held up with barn poles on the side of a mountain. The rest of the village is a stoplight they call downtown. Tarek lands the plane on a runway of ice that leads up to the docks. Exterior Purge dock day. Susan makes sure her foot is steady before stepping out onto the gray dock. Susan can see her breath floating on the brisk air while pulling her suitcase out of the plane. Tarek steps out onto the dock.
Purge is a small town. Hard to get things. You need anything? Let me know.
Susan sets her suitcase down on the edge of the dock while reaching into the plane once more for her other bag. I'll keep that in mind. The strap of her carry-on is caught on the passenger seat, and when she gets it loose, Susan knocks her suitcase off the dock into the bay. No! Susan and Tarek watch the suitcase slip deep into the cold water.
Did you pack rocks or something?
Dr. Susan Wren?
Susan takes a gander up the dock to see a smile on Agent Alexander Cavender's face. Yes.
I'll be damned. I'm Agent Cavender. You can call me Alexander.
Susan shakes his hand with her left as Tarek sees the bandage and turns to his plane promptly. Alexander keeps his eyes on Tarek, but Susan's left handshake takes him off guard. I know you?
We have never worked together, but I'm a big fan.
That was weird.
We should get going.
I see you hurt your hand. Let me help you with your luggage.
She looks down at her fist and then over the edge of the dock. I'm ready to go. I'll explain on the way. Susan steps past Alexander, and he watches her walk up to the dock. He takes another quick glance at Tarek before following after her. When Tarek knows they are out of sight, he pulls a black leather case out of his plane. Interior/exterior armored cargo van day. Susan slings her bag over her shoulder as she climbs into the passenger seat of the armored van. Alexander's phone rings. He picks up before getting in the driver's seat.
Yeah, we're on our way to the school now. Yes, she is with me.
Alexander hangs up his phone, climbs into the armored van, and gestures to Susan to put on her seatbelt.
We're a little behind schedule.
He backs up in a hurry and slides to a stop before kicking up snow behind him at the van as the van tears out of the parking lot. Where are we going?
Who's your friend back there?
My phone decided to take a swim, and I had to improvise my travel arrangements. That was my pilot.
I told them you were smart.
Why do you know so much about me?
Like I said, I'm a fan.
You are weird. Why am I here? Alexander hands Susan a file. Her eyes divulge her curiosity as she flips open the file to see an image of a mutilated body in a bed. She covers her mouth as she flips to the next bloody image in the file.
There was a massacre in a small fishing village up the coast, a little town called Hook. Actually,
Shaped like a hook. Yeah. Alexander smiles.
Sounds like you met some of the locals.
Susan continues to flip through each grotesque picture. The final image is of the surviving children shivering in the snow. The children were left alive?
And have not spoken a word since we found them.
You want me to get them to talk, so you can find out what happened that night.
You are the only one with a resume to fit this job.
Where are the children now?
Inside that van.
Oh, Sorry, I skipped it. Alexander points to the armored cargo van ahead of him. Alexander hits the gas and slides across the slush-covered roads, passing the armored van. Susan gazes at the vehicle and sees Eli staring back at her from the side window. The pale-skinned boy waves to her as she passes by him. Exterior Old Purge School Day. Alexander slams on the brakes and brings the van to a halt just moments before the children arrive. Susan nods and hurries out, but before she can close the door, Alexander remarks,
Oh, and by the way, Cormac is a dick.
Susan closes the door, and the wheels of the van spin before catching traction. Susan turns around and beholds the Old Purge School. It is a weathered brick building with new iron bars over blackout windows. Her gaze rests across a frozen field to a dilapidated home with a few rusted-out trucks parked in the lawn covered in snow.
Where have you been?
Susan turns around to find Cormac. His eyes burn with contempt, his scrawny fingers wrapped around a cracked leather-bound notebook. I ran into... Cormac turns his back on her before she can finish.
Since you missed your orientation, I will simplify your instructions. Your only concern are these children. We need you to establish communication without contaminating the evidence. Is that understood?
Yes, it is.
I know Agent Cavender briefed you on the investigation, and this is one of many wheels in motion. You may find it easy to get distracted, so I sincerely stress once more, your only concern are these children. I will continue your orientation after they have been secured.
At this moment, the two other armored vans come to a stop, and a dozen armed FBI agents take position around the perimeter of the entrance. The extra precaution intrigues Susan to look around for potential danger, but there's nothing for miles in every direction. Two FBI agents approach the van door, open it, and take several steps back. Inside is a scared little girl, 10, who shades her eyes from the bright snow reflecting back at her. No one makes a move. The silence is deafening. Susan can't stop herself from stepping out of the crowd and inching her way to the scared little girl. Hello, it's okay. Susan reaches out her hand, and the scared little girl notices the blood on Susan's other hand. She follows the child's gaze down to her broken fist. I got hurt too, but it's going to be okay. Just like you, come here. I'm not going to hurt you. The scared little girl's tiny foot trembles as she steps out of the van. Susan finally takes a breath when the little girl touches the ground and reaches for Susan. Cormac watches Susan rise to her feet and take the scared little girl by the hand as the next child follows. Even Cormac takes a deep breath after that moment of tension. Susan looks back at the line of children and lands eyes on Eli, precious and pale, as the boy steps out of the van. Eli looks straight into Susan's eyes, catching her off guard. She stares back at him with curiosity. Cormac notices and becomes alarmed by the exchange.
Doctor?
Susan looks to Cormac, and Eli takes advantage of the moment. The boy darts out of the line and sprints as the crow flies across the field towards the dilapidated home.
I gotta fix that. I don't like the way that's
Okay.
that paragraph.
Half of the agents rush into formation, securing the children, and the other half take pursuit after Eli with their weapons drawn. Susan chases after them all. Exterior Wanda's Place Day. Julian knocks on the dilapidated door of the double wide across the field from the old Purge School. Eventually, Cleo, 18, a malnourished mouse boy, answers the door.
Is Christy here?
Cleo is a boy of few words and just shakes his head. No.
You know where she is?
Cleo turns to close the door, and Julian stops him with his foot.
You know where she is. Tell me.
Cleo backs away, and Julian grabs him. Cleo whispers in his ear.
Derek.
Eli comes running around the corner and collides into Julian and Cleo. The scared boy darts in between the two of them into the home. Interior Wanda's Place Day. Eli scurries through a horde's maze of dirty clothes, shipping containers, and beer cans. A half dozen foster children dart and hide beneath the filth while spying on Eli, who is scrambling for a safe place to hide himself. Wanda's bedroom. Eli fumbles and turns into a dark room lit only by an old-school large-screen TV. In the center of the room stands Josie, 11, wearing lipstick. She is scared of Eli and runs. Bam! Eli is hit in the head with a remote control. Who the fuck are you? Eli finds Wanda, 40s, a 400-pound Jabba the Hutt, in a skin-tight muumuu, spread out on a king-size bed. The boy claws his way out of the room and back down the hall. Children's room. Eli runs face-to-face into Cleo.
Target in sight. In the home.
The voices draw Cleo's attention out the window to see FBI agents running toward the house. Bam! The front door bursts open and FBI agents pour into the home, kicking over the filth in search of Eli.
FBI, get down on the ground.
Cleo hits the floor as Wanda yells from her back room, "Get the hell out of my house!" Cleo sees Eli scurry under a bed like a feral cat, hissing in fear. FBI Agent 2 stops over the flip and flips Cleo over on his back.
Not him. Target is still somewhere in the house.
Wanda's place. Susan runs through the open front door with flushed cheeks and eyes lit up. "It's a child, for God's sake. Just calm down." FBI Agent 1 opens the closet door and pulls bags of toilet paper rolls onto the floor. Susan eyes a broken plate with moldy spaghetti next to a pile of crushed beer cans when FBI Agent 3 kicks in the bathroom door. Moldy bathroom. 3 children scream while hiding inside a rust-stained bathtub with black mold in the edges of the tiles. This is a sad place.
Get out of the tub and on the floor.
Susan peeks inside the bathroom to see the children screaming bloody murder. Her heart breaks at the sight when one of the FBI agents yells out from the front of the house.
Target in sight.
Susan rushes into the children's bedroom. Susan finds FBI Agent 1 on the floor, weapon aimed under the bed. Cormac steps into the room.
Do you want me to take the shot?
Do not hurt that child.
Hold your fire.
Cormac sees a fire in Susan's eyes. If my only concern are these children, then I'm not going to let you hurt them. FBI Agent 1 keeps his trigger finger to the side of the gun, targeting Eli, shivering and scared. The silent standoff between Susan and Cormac is broken when she gets down on the floor and crawls under the bed.
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Eli hisses and backs away from her even deeper. Susan calms her movements and softens her voice. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." Eli smacks the floor with his hand and hisses at the doctor. Susan sees Cormac's feet from under the bed as he walks around it, unsettling Eli even more.
I thought you might like to know that, Eli. The child you are now just merely inches from at the moment. Put an officer in the hospital yesterday. The boy is highly unpredictable and dangerous.
Cormac sits on Eli's side of the bed, forcing the scared child closer to Susan. "It's okay. Come here." Eli attacks and scratches Susan's face. She grabs his hand and looks him in the eye. Blood drips down the side of her nose. "Eli." Suddenly, Eli stops fighting her, and Susan sees the light turn on in his eyes. He looks right at her.
Where am I?
"You're okay. You're safe." Cormac gets down on his hands and knees and looks under the bed.
Did the boy just say something?
Eli suddenly breaks into an elliptic seizure, foaming at the mouth. Susan grabs him and pulls him closer. "Pull me out!" The agents pull Susan and Eli out from under the bed by her legs as she keeps the child secure to the floor. Eli convulses and shakes on the solid carpet. Cleo watches the chaos unfold in his home, holding a crying baby in his arms. "It's okay. He's going to be fine." Eli's seizure ends as fast as it started, and Susan can finally take a breath. She looks around to see a corner filled with dirty diapers. She lands eyes on Cleo. His eyes beg for help through the whirlwind of FBI in the room. Exterior Old Purge School evening. Before Julian gets in his truck, he watches Susan hold her arm around Eli as they walk back to the Old Purge School together. The FBI agents encircle them both as the sun glows close to the horizon. Susan and Eli near the front door when they hear a van come hurtling to a stop. Susan and Eli spin around to see Alexander and 2 other FBI agents pull a body out of the van. The 3 men carry the body past Susan and Eli to reveal Officer Michael in their arms. Michael recoils in pain, but is suddenly struck frozen with terror when he sees Eli. Michael points and screams at the boy.
It was him. Get him away from me.
Alexander and the other agents rush him inside as Susan notices something grotesque on the ground. She gets closer to inspect a clump of black earth covered in wet blood. All right. Whew. that is the end of Act 2. We are going to get into Act 3 on our next episode, so please tune in again next week where we continue with Roze with his script, Bloody Hook. Did I say that right name?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, good. Okay. And we'll pick back up where we left off and then get into some questions about the story and how it was created and the way the script was put together. So thank you again for joining us, Roze. And everybody make sure you tune in next week. If you have any comments, please be sure to comment at us on Arizona Studios on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, or you can send us an email at info@arizonastudios.com. Do you want to tag yourself at the end of the episode?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Mindplate, and @gasmask_Roze on Instagram.
Awesome.
2 ways you can reach out.
And you spell Roze, R-O-Z-E.
R-O-Z-E.
Okay,
Yes. So
perfect.
Gasmask, GASMASK_ROZE
All right, so
Instagram.
make sure you go follow Roze to keep up to date on all of his awesome projects coming up. And again, tune in next week.